Welcome back, everyone. I gave you an extra 5 minutes. It's 11:05, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Before we go to our next speaker, I'd like to talk to you about the Realtor Political Action Committee. Is everyone ready? Got it. Okay, so I'd like to talk to you about the Realtor Political Action Committee, or what we call RPAC, and the importance of advocacy in our industry. By investing in RPAC, you are investing in the continued success of your business and the advocacy for private property rights for your consumers. If you are an RPAC major investor, can you please stand? I would love to recognize you. Thank you. Your investment is so critical to our industry. To invest in RPAC, you don't have to be a major investor, although we would love it if you were. You can scan the QR code on the screen or reach out to our government affairs staff, Ryan Adcock and Corey Cook, at advocacy@greaternashvillerealtors.org. Our next speaker has a wealth of knowledge on the Greater Nashville area and will share insights into the pipeline of business expansion and job growth that fuel the Nashville economy and support our local real estate market. It's my pleasure to welcome Chief Economic Development Officer at the Nashville Area Chamber of Commerce, Jeff Hite.
Wrong side. I'm sorry. Wrong side. Thank you. Is this clicker right here? Yes. Good. I'm going to stand over here. Good morning, everybody. How are y'all? Thanks for having me back. Before we pull the panel up, Jaron asked for maybe a 10 or 15-minute update on what's going on in the region. And I think everyone in this room knows we live in a very special place, a lot going on. And that slide up on the screen right now, I just noticed, that's an old skyline shot. That's from 2019 when we had the NFL draft. You can see that there. So I need to update that slide. But speaking of that, think about this. There are 38 buildings over 300 feet downtown. We have built 26 of those in the last 10 years. Almost 70% of our skyline has been built in the last 10 years. That's a phenomenal number. So if you can see the list there. It ranks number 1 in the country. It's just, when you think about the growth in this area, downtown, out in the region, it's unbelievable. So I thought I'd throw it in there when I need to update that slide. So earlier this week, I gave a presentation to a group out of Raleigh, and they were last here in 2014. So they asked kind of that 10-year look back. So I thought I'd just use that presentation for today because a lot has happened in 10 years in Nashville. I just typed out a few things that have happened. When you think a lot of these things, a community only gets one of those in 10 years, right? When you think about Oracle, In-N-Out, the NFL draft that set a record. We've had 5 mayors in Nashville, the East Bank opportunity. You know, I have In-N-Out on there, and Matt and I will talk about it in a minute, but that In-N-Out got more media coverage across the country than just about anything on that list. It's unbelievable the love for that brand in In-N-Out. But the British Airways nonstop to London. And the last 2 are very, very important. The in-migration, the population increase in Nashville, and the jobs they created. You know, the greatest tool to change somebody's social status and opportunity is a job, right? And job creators are chasing talent. So we are attracting talent to the area. The companies that we're relocating and growing are creating jobs, so it's kind of the perfect circle. I don't know how many people saw the Cities of Success story, CNBC. CNBC decided to start a series and highlight the hottest cities in the country. Nashville was the first one they covered. It's an hour-long documentary on how Nashville got to where it would be. So I recommend everybody Google it and find it. But there's a quick, I think, a minute trailer that'll really give you a vibe of the documentary and really kind of highlight what's going on here.
Signs of Nashville's explosive growth are visible from high above the city skyline.
There are
Maybe not.
cranes everywhere. It's booming.
More than 2 million people and around 52,000 businesses call the Nashville area home. Dozens of publicly traded companies have offices here, and more are moving in.
There was a gravitational pull to the city.
People want to come to be a part of this train, this fast-moving, exciting train.
And sure, the city's known for its country music scene.
It's your global country music home, the big 615.
With the largest concentration of music industry jobs per capita in the U.S., the city's earned its nickname, Music City.
This place is just on fire.
But the secret to this town's extraordinary success goes far beyond music. Tonight, CNBC travels to Nashville, and our reporters hit the streets to take a closer look at its dramatic rise.
150,000 new jobs, $30 billion growth in our GDP.
Revealing an American city transforming into a major player in the business world, with Amazon and Oracle investing hundreds of millions on campuses here, creating thousands of new jobs.
We actually have 12,000 employees within Metro Nashville.
And the strategy to attract over 1,000 new companies to the region.
On a daily basis, around 1,600 vehicles will roll off the line here.
We'll explain the booming healthcare industry that brings in $67 billion each year, drawing in venture capital and thriving startups.
This year we'll have probably about $2.8 billion of revenue.
Plus, a billionaire's record-breaking investment in professional sports becomes a driving force that energizes downtown.
You could have invested in any city, in any sport. You chose this one. Why?
I'm just bullish on Nashville's future.
And a red-hot real estate market. As more and more people move to Nashville, affordable housing becomes a complicated term.
I definitely wouldn't be able to afford to live here if I didn't have that second job.
And a city feels the stress.
The congestion and the traffic count is infinitely more than it's ever been.
But new people and new ideas keep coming to Nashville.
This city has a beautiful way of taking someone who's not from here and making them feel like they belong here.
This is Cities of Success, Nashville.
So, that's just, we couldn't purchase that kind of media coverage. We worked with them about 6 months. That went all across the country. It was just phenomenal, the feedback we got from that. So Google it. It's an hour long. It goes into in depth about a lot of things, so make sure you watch it. I have this slide up here because when the Amazon process started in 2017, we knew Nashville was too small for the HQ2 process, but we knew something behind that with that growing company. We just wanted to get Nashville in front of them. Hey, Tanya. We just wanted to get that Nashville in front of the Amazon team, and then we ended up with the Center of Excellence. Similar with Oracle, the comments that Larry Ellison made a few weeks ago went viral for about 96 hours. Our phones didn't stop ringing, but when you just got to get your name in Nashville out in front of people, and we know once we get people here and they learn more about Nashville, they want to be here. This is the region that we represent. Jamari's laughing at me. This is the region we represent. When we say Nashville, 95% of the time I'm talking about the Middle Tennessee region. How did we get here? I mentioned this last year. There's no secret sauce, but when you think about the creative culture in Nashville that really touches all of our sectors, we've had smart politics, we've had the right people at the right time, and then the diversity of our economy, those strong economic foundation pieces really are the key to our success. Here's a quick snapshot on this, on what's going on. And people snapping pictures, feel free, but I can send this afterward, so just let me know. But the bottom right, the 2.4% unemployment rate, that's the lowest in the country of the 50 largest metros when you think about that. So job creation is critical. The state of Tennessee has done a really good job of creating that good business environment in Nashville. We're the third lowest tax state in the country. We're the top, trying to get my clicker to work. There we go. We're the top state in the country for lowest tax per capita. So the state does a really good job of creating that culture. Here are the 5 sectors that really drive the economy. Healthcare is the largest employer. Advanced manufacturing has the largest economic impact. Tourism and hospitality, we know 15 million people visit Nashville annually. But the bottom left, music and entertainment, that's really the brand of Nashville. There are only a handful of cities in this country where someone will sell all of their goods, throw their bag in the car, and drive to make their dreams come true. New York, Los Angeles, and Nashville. So that creativity behind that music industry is really a magnet for talent. This number I love here. This is the number of jobs we've added since January of this year, so the last 3 months. We've had a net gain of over 13,000 jobs. Our median individual income has risen 12.8%. That ranks us 5th in the nation. So we are attracting and growing the right kind of jobs that increase wages. The top number is the state's GDP. The middle number is Nashville's GDP. So we're almost 40% of the state's GDP. So Nashville is the economic engine of the state, and we're almost 30% of the population. So Nashville really does push Tennessee. Think about this number on the screen. We've added 330,000 people since 14. That's a lot of people coming in. But again, job creators are chasing talent, and those immigration numbers are very important. This may be a little hard to see on the screen, but these are where the folks are coming to. You can see Murfreesboro, Rutherford County is leading the pack, and then Montgomery County and Sumner, Wilson. But you can see the dark green counties are picking up the most in migration numbers. Where are they coming from? Individuals are coming from the same places that we see companies coming from: expensive, dense, high-regulated areas, the Northeast, Chicago, and the West Coast. That's no surprise. Here's some numbers that the University of Tennessee just published, population forecast. So you can see over the next 10 years, the state's going to add almost 500,000 people. Nashville will add almost 300. And then again, you can see the 20-year numbers there. So a lot of interest in Nashville. My favorite number on the screen. Somebody know what it is? Cranes. There are 32 cranes up in Nashville, in Davidson County, and the region. Last year we ended up with 83. You can see the numbers there, but just a lot of activity. And of those 32 cranes up to date, we count them every month. There have been 45 up. Some have come down, but there are 32 up currently. Davidson County, the core of the region, the core has to be strong for the region to thrive. So a lot of activity in Davidson County. The mayor's going to speak after us. Obviously, he'll talk about that. Jamari's going to be on the panel. Then when you think about Williamson County, I think Matt and his team have added over 35 headquarters in the last 10 years. So a lot of activity in Williamson County. And then the region as a whole, when you think about the 2.1 million person Middle Tennessee area, there's just people want to be in this city. Whether you're a tourist from Nebraska, a recent college grad from Chicago, or a company sitting in Silicon Valley, people want to be in Middle Tennessee. This is a fun graphic. Where are these companies coming from? Just some fun logos on the board. Again, Northeast, Chicago, the West Coast. Office sector, we're seeing the office pipeline pick up. We still haven't figured out the work from home and hybrid, but over the last 90 days, we've seen the office pipeline activity really pick up. This next slide, I just love this next slide. Zoom just called their people back to the office. So the company that allows us to work from home said, we need to come back in the office for a little collaboration. So I get a big kick out of this. And then our industrial pipeline is strong as well. It's been really strong since COVID. We're starting to see it flatten out a little bit, but the state has done a really good job of positioning Tennessee as kind of ground zero for the EV movement. So we're really have a strong foundation there. So the office pipeline, industrial pipeline are strong. They could be stronger, but we're in a really good position. Here's a quick quote. We've always talked about people coming to Nashville for their music dream, for their creativity dream. But now Sam Davison, who was a local entrepreneur and has just taken a job at Entrepreneur Center, said this recently and asked if I could use it. But people are coming to Nashville now for that business dream, not just that music dream. So it's a special place. One last little quick video, and then we'll get the panel up here. This is a video we just created and haven't released publicly. fun video. Just a fun video. Oh, stop. Thank you. Whoops. It went to the beginning. We'll get the. Did I do that? Did they do that? I think someone's working with the slides. That's just a quick update. Again, we live in a special place. We're excited about the future. We don't see anything in the future that's really going to stop this growth. I think now we all have to agree we need to manage the growth. Growth is good if you manage it. So now let's bring the panel up. Several of my buddies, Matt, Jamari, Patrick, Corey, come on up and we'll sit and, I'll put that. We are all friends and buddies, so this is going to be fun. Corey Johns is from Wilson County. Patrick K. Mack is Rutherford County. Matt Largent with Williamson County. Jamari Brown with Davidson County. And we all talk daily, if not weekly, on, we all do the same thing for our communities. Our goal is to attract jobs and capital investment and manage this growth. So it's a fun opportunity. There's not a city in this country that I would want to do this for, so we're in the great spot. Corey, why don't you tell us what's going on in Wilson County? Give us a quick update.
A lot. Good morning. How's everyone? I guess we're afternoon now. No, we're still morning. Where my Wilson County folks at? All right, see y'all. Corey Johns with the Joint Economic Community Development Board of Wilson County. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you all for having us. Wilson County's seeing, depending on how, and to echo sort of the regional trend, depending on what years you look at, how you count, Wilson's either the first, second, third fastest growing county in the state right now. We are actually going through a land use plan reboot at the moment. We're currently at about 160,000. The census said 158, so we're probably 162, 164 by this point. But the GNRC figures, which are Greater National Regional Council, which are historically pretty conservative, are saying that by 2045 there's going to be 250,000 people living in Wilson County. So we're looking at continued future growth. Seeing lots of interest from the business community. Excited about a lot of things that are going on, including the new Central Pike interchange, which will be 1 mile west of the current Mount Juliet Providence exit. 1 mile closer to BNA International Airport. That's in TDOT's 10-year plan. So if you're going east, the overpass you go under just before you hit the Providence exit, that'll be a divergent diamond interchange somewhere in the future. So that'll open up a new corridor, and excited about kind of what's happening there. Our communities, two of our three cities, Mount Juliet, Lebanon, they're both sitting right at about 42,000 population right now. They actually both just went through a special census, and we're barely into 2024, right? So we just did a census 3 years ago, and that's how much growth they've seen that they said it's worth to go in and do a recount. To echo, what Jeff was sharing there, we're currently sitting at 2.4% unemployment. That's actually a little bit of a problem because we added 600 new jobs in March with 2 project announcements. So as our employers are looking to fill those employment opportunities, we need bodies. There just aren't enough bodies, honestly. So that's given rise to the demand and shift to a lot of robotics. But also it adds importance to what you all and to what our builders, developers do in providing housing supply in the community, so that our workforce can have a place to live as the community continues to grow and see interest from the private sector. So that's a little bit of an overview. I'm sure we'll get to other topics, but yeah, I'll pass it back.
Patrick, you've done a really good job of creating both industrial projects and office projects, and you have what was the largest university in the state. I think, did UT just surpass MTSU?
Yeah, I think so. I think they were going back and forth, but they're still, in the mid-20s with enrollment, and so still the largest university in the Middle Tennessee
So you want to talk
area.
about your kind of mix in office and industrial and how important having MTSU in the county is?
Yeah, absolutely. So Middle Tennessee State University, about 22,000 undergrad or enrollment right now. They've really bumped up their research. They're now an R2 university, research institute, And so they really used to be known as just the, kind of the boring workforce creator, what industry needs. They've always aligned well with what industry needs, and pumped out the workforce for the region. But now they're really upping their game with research. For example, last week I organized a meeting with a lot of our partners at the state's Economic Development Department and TVA's Economic Development Department. Those are folks that are traveling the country and the world trying to recruit projects to the state and to our region. And I wanted them to be aware of what MTSU is doing, especially with life sciences, with drug research, food science research, and also technology, computational technology. It's just amazing. They're attracting, NSF grants, and have some world-leading researchers there at MTSU. So I think that's a lot what we don't realize in the region is all the efforts they've been making to make sure that we're attracting, these big research grants and able to attract, great research jobs and companies to the region and to the state. So they're doing a great job with that, and we kind of want to make sure that that's a regional play, and that's what we're up here today.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just a Murfreesboro play and region, but even the state play. So great institute.
We have over 20 universities and colleges in the region. And at any given time, there are 120, 125,000 students enrolled. And about 25,000 graduate annually. And the data shows about 60%, 15,000 stay in the region. And MTSU is the biggest contributor to that. But having that 15,000 person workforce pipeline, because when you think about talent, you can grow talent, you can attract talent, and you retain talent. So growing the talent with the universities, it's critical to what we do. Matt, pre-K through 12, how important is that to economic development and the community?
Yeah, so it's very important. I'll just say from Patrick's standpoint, MTSU is a regional asset for sure. Like everything in the region is a regional asset. And we've had many conversations about how do we get them more plugged in with our workforce as well. Same with universities across the region. So I think one of the things that really separates Nashville is how well we all work together. I know it sounds kind of trite to say it, but that is something that you don't see in other cities across the country. So I want to make sure I get that in. So yeah, K through 12, obviously Williamson County schools are incredibly important. They're our economic foundation. I mean, for our county, our county mayor really decided in the 80s to make a specific intentional investments in the school, knowing we'd build on top of that. I don't think they quite understand exactly how it would work out. But our school system is everything. And a lot of things that we focus on is making sure we create opportunities for our students to get real-world experience. We actually helped start an Entrepreneur and Innovation Center inside Williamson County Schools. So any high school student in Williamson County can actually go through and take curriculum on how to start and run a business, and that has been a big differentiator. In fact, Nathan Zipper on our team took one of those students to South by Southwest to pitch at the Tennessee House his business idea through that. So yeah, so schools are everything. I could talk for hours, but I think it's really important to know that that is our entire economic foundation. So when it comes to funding and fully funding our schools, that's a priority not just for our county, but for our organization as well.
Thank you. Jamari, you joined Mayor O'Connell's team 5 months ago? 7 months ago? You've got a really good background in real estate, site selection. And the mayor speaking after us, so you've got to make sure you don't steal any of his thunder.
Absolutely, absolutely.
How have the last 7 months been for you in that role?
So the last 7 months, wow, that's a great question. Maybe I'll take it back just before the last 7 months. Prior to joining the mayor's office and in this administration, I was doing site selection consulting, as you mentioned, with Newmark, and having a lot of fun doing some global projects, working all around the world. And when the mayor reached out to me, honestly, I reached out to him first, just sending him a congratulations for winning, and talked about looking at some of the hires he was making for the team that he has put together, and said, "Hey, you've put together a great team. I'm looking forward to the next 4 years of your administration." And so he threw out a line saying, "Would you like to join the team?" And I had no idea that was going to be coming, and so really had an opportunity. And the reason why I go back to that is the mayor has put together such a unique, dynamic team from all walks of life. Jackie Gomez is our director of New and Indigenous Americans. Just a few weeks ago, she received her citizenship papers. that's how unique and diverse and the viewpoint that we have on our team. When we're talking about people entrenched in the work, she literally embodies new and indigenous Americans. And so with me coming in my background in economic development, working with everyone on the stage at several points with the state ECD, working with you at the chamber, and Matt down in Williamson County working on projects, it's been great to kind of come back in and take a holistic approach to economic development. And one of the things that we're really focused on right now for the office is place-based economic development. I know a lot of people talk about it, and I love the comments you made, Matt, earlier about public schools. Honestly, one of the biggest things we're focused on right now is identifying career pathways, and those start at that gateway, which is our public school system, and how do we align those to opportunities that we're recruiting. This entire panel recruits opportunities. We've talked about that. All the numbers from Jeff in that beautiful video. One comment on the video, Derrick Henry has left us. We gotta, just one. I'll move on.
I've got to change the skyline and the Derrick Henry video, but thank you for that.
But no, that's so important for everything that we do, is having that workforce. And I think at the end of your video, the last line was human capital. That is what's driving decision making right now. All of the conversations I was having with Newmark from the corporate individuals we were talking about is every point throughout the process is, can we find the talent, or can we recruit the talent in? And that's where you all come into play, as well as creating that neighborhood for that talent to feel comfortable, and being able to sail all these different neighborhoods that exist around the community, whether that's Davidson County or Williamson County, Rutherford or Wilson County. So I think that's really cool that we have the opportunity to sit in the seats that we do to kind of accent the work you all are doing.
Yeah, that's a great point. When you think about, let's say Company X is sitting in San Francisco, and they decide they're going to be coming west. And the finalists are Denver, Austin, Nashville, Charlotte. All of those proposals roughly are going to be the same. Incentives similar, cost of living similar, taxes similar. The community that can make the human capital, the workforce pitch, is going to win the project. These job creators, as I said earlier, are chasing talent. And so when you think about talent, I said earlier, you can grow it, the university pipeline. You can attract it. We saw that we've added over 300,000 people in the last 10 years. And then what a lot of people don't think about is retaining talent. The stickier we make it for these young professionals, the deeper we get their roots planted, the harder it is for them to take a job in Raleigh, Dallas, or Denver. Now, we want career and wage growth for everybody. We just want to have it here. So talent's very important. Yeah,
and there's an emotional connection too, right? And like Jamari said, you are on the front lines of that. You're working with people every day that are moving here across counties, maybe from other parts of the country, and that emotional connection they make to this community through what you saw in the video. I mean, to me, again, that's what separates us from our peers, without question.
Yeah, so we were talking about that fictional West Coast company, but In-N-Out is not fictional.
They're very real.
So you want to talk about that process a little bit?
I'll be happy to. I'll even share
the mayor of Florida and all that.
I'll be happy. Thanks. I'll be happy to share a few of the behind-the-scene things too. In-N-Out is economic development projects are so different from each other. It's really hard to draw conclusions because everyone is so unique. There's some commonalities from a data standpoint, but boy, talk about one's driven by personality. In-N-Out is owned by one person, Lindsay Snyder. She is the granddaughter of the founder, and she makes every decision in that company. We learned pretty early on. And one of the things we also learned was that our finalist community was Orlando. And Governor DeSantis was very aggressive, making 3 visits out to California to court that company. And so it was interesting. One of the reasons that she really decided this was the right place for her is because it was the right place for her family. This is a place where she wanted to raise her family. And even though this is the Eastern Territory office, all of their executives will office out of this building when it's finished in Franklin. So they're they're past the design stage. Now they're bidding out to actually build the building. But they will break ground, I would say, in the next probably 4 to 6 months, probably spend a year or so on their corporate office building in Franklin, and then build a restaurant on site that if you work at In-N-Out, you can actually eat there for free, which is good and probably bad at the same time if you work there. But in addition to this is the base where they'll grow across the country. This is the first restaurant in Franklin Beach, east of the Mississippi, and they'll open probably 15 or 20 roughly the same time. The reason they do that on the same day is because there's not so much traffic when they open one. So like Jeff said, the press that came out of this, one of my favorite stories is the people they brought in from New York to manage the press. We did the announcement at the factory. She was leaving to go back, and the attendant on the plane said, "Hey, did you all hear the news today about In-N-Out moving their headquarters here?" Right? And so I think that's when you know you've hit popular culture, when the airplane attendant is talking about your economic development project.
No, it did. It received more media coverage than Amazon, than AllianceBernstein. It was unbelievable how viral that went around across the country. It's that brand loyalty. Patrick, how's your pipeline? How's the activity in Rutherford County, and what's going on there?
Great. We continue to have a great, very strong industrial, market there. Thanks to I-24 and our cities along I-24, Murfreesboro, Smyrna, Laverne. They all still at this point have enough land along the interstate for industrial developers like Panattoni and Prologis, Foundry Commercial to come in and build speculative developments. And so that's been our industrial market for the past 5 to 10 years has been really driven by that. So we've had a lot of inventory. Panattoni is about to break ground on a new 7 to 8 building development in Laverne. And then we have about 1 building left in a development, Prologis development in Smyrna. So that's driven a lot of activity. We continue to see, I think what's going into those buildings has changed over the last 5 to 10 years. I think initially it was very heavy on e-commerce, and so the jobs weren't as attractive as the jobs that we're seeing now, looking at those of advanced manufacturing, maybe light assembly, but higher skilled labor, and that's a more of a national trend. But it's exciting for us to see, those in those shell buildings, that the companies and the jobs looking at those are better for jobs. And we talked about workforce, and the better jobs we can get for our residents and for the people moving here are better for us, better for our community. So seems very strong. We are also continue to focus on. Jamari made it. Has talked about the focus on place-based development. Making the last the green fields we have, the infill opportunities we have development-wise. The cities are really paying a lot of attention to making sure that their mixed use are walkable. They're better quality of place. And so you're seeing that in all of our cities, and that's an exciting development, something that's been new. And so I think those two areas are two of the focus areas. And then continuing on the road building, another interesting tidbit is besides TDOT, Murfreesboro is the biggest road builder in the state of Tennessee. Now you ask a Murfreesboro resident, they will doubt that, and they will probably fight you that there's take you to court on that. But it's true, and it's hard to stay ahead of these growing pains. But
sure.
Each of our cities and continue to build as much road building and really think into the future about where those future corridors and investments will need to be.
This is kind of a chime in for everybody, but I'll start with Corey. Let's talk about the life cycle of a project. Kind of, we've had projects that our first contact and 90 days later there's a decision. We've had some that's been 2 or 3 years. Let's kind of talk about the industrial, kind of the life cycle of a project in that process.
Well, it's all over the place, right? So in March, we were excited to announce Bridgetown Natural Foods, which any granola folks. So if you know Bare Naked Granola, that Kelly Clock started that company. That's her recipe. She and her husband Dan, they sold it. The folks that they sold it to came back and said, "We're having a hard time producing this at scale with fidelity to the quality standards. Can you help us out?" And in the process of that, they realized that there was a latent market for granola base that would go into finished products. So they're Portland-based. We're excited that their first location outside of where they're currently where they currently call home is going to be in Lebanon. That project, I think my predecessor, I've been in this role for about 17 months or so now. And my predecessor, I think, worked that project for 1.5 years before the pandemic. Obviously, then it sort of shelved. I was supposed to pitch this project 90 minutes on the job my first day. Thankfully, because of
You closed it.
flights from Portland, I got day 3. They came in day 3. It only took a year after that, right? But that project was probably 3 years in total. The other recent announcement we had, Schneider Electric, 355 new advanced manufacturing jobs, manufacturing electronics components that'll go off Couchville Pike off 840. That was a relatively quick project. I mean, I think that RFI came out in maybe August, and we announced in March, and that was part of a regional expansion, right? So there were 100 jobs as a part of that expansion that went to the existing facility in Smyrna. Then I've got another project right now that I keep laughing with my executive committee that I'm thinking about changing. We have these project code names, right? So that we can just be secretive about things. No, it's to protect the company and the community as well. It has a code name, but I keep laughing with my executive committee that I'm thinking about changing that to Project Zombie, because every time I think it's dead, it comes back to life.
It's funny when you talk about project names. We have consultants. There are a handful of consultants that always like to pick a project name that has some obscure relationship to the project, and they're so smart that you'd never figure it out. And years ago, we had one. It was Project Zeta, and it was a telecommunications customer service center. And there was a telecommunications company that had a spokesperson, Catherine Zeta-Jones. So it was T-Mobile. So this consultant thought no one would ever figure it, and it went viral. But there are a variety of reasons why they do remain secret. We have one consultant that only uses Springsteen fans, which Matt loves that.
That's what if I get to name them, it's Springsteen songs.
Right, yeah. Your background site selection, from the office standpoint, I mean, I would say on average a project takes 9 months to a year, but there are a variety of reasons why. I don't know if you want to share any thoughts on.
Sure. I'll start. The local side of the project probably takes 9 months to a year. When you're on the consulting side, there's usually about 12 to 18 months of work on the front end, getting down to what's considered a short list. I talked about workforce and the people that lead to the decision making, but there's a lot of data points that you're working with. Companies can be successful in a lot of markets. One site selection process we were taking with Newmark started with 30 communities that fit the needs of the company, right? And so you take that, then you start to drill down into what we call fatal flaw analysis. How do we get this 30 down to a top 10? From the top 10, you take that top 10 and send them RFIs, request for information, tell us about your community. We already know about your community, but tell us what you want us to know. And so from that, you go to a top 5 where you do site selection. And from that, you get your top 2 or 3 where you start to do incentive negotiations and final negotiations around real estate. So that process, while it feels like 6 to 9 months for the local community, there's about a year and a half worth of work doing that. One of the really cool fatal flaws from the project I was just talking about, perfect fit on paper for the national MSA. I think the national MSA, based on the initial ranking, came in at 6th. When we started doing the fatal flaw analysis, the national MSA was cut because we did not have a direct flight to Paris. It's something that simple that takes you out of the game.
Because at that point, they're just trying to reduce the list, right?
Trying to reduce. And the team here had no idea that Nashville was even being considered for that opportunity.
Right.
So you all never got that opportunity to even tell the story about the investment.
Thanks, Jamari. Thanks for that. Appreciate that.
Anything I can do to help. And obviously, I have the home field advantage, and so I was trying to push hard to try to say, hey, there's some really cool things happening at the airport. Well, the numbers say. So it's really interesting, that site selection process, where it's something very small and minute that your community really has no control over that gets you kicked out of the game before you even know you were playing.
They Matt, call it. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I want to tell a story about a bad project.
I
think this is great.
We're in the nest of trust.
No, this is great. This is. I love telling this, and this is audience participation too. So this is probably been maybe 10 to 15 years ago. working this project, and I can't remember the code name, but we're working this project, and the company execs are in town visiting, and they could not have been less interested in what we were talking about. We were driving through, it was a driving tour, and the only thing the CFO cared at all about was when we drive by a golf course. And that's when he'd perk up. And so we drive by a course, he'd perk up, drive by, and I said, all right, how often are you playing golf? The CFO of this major company said 3 times a week. And I thought, oh my gosh, what CFO has time to play golf 3 times a week? Now, this is 10 to 15 years ago. This was a company looking at their headquarters. Now, it's audience participation. Bad project. Who do you think it was?
Oh, you're going to drop the name?
Yeah, absolutely. And you'll understand why. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
You do? Why wouldn't I?
Okay.
All right.
It's Matt Large in Williamson County?
No. I'll give you a hint. The company doesn't exist anymore. All right, so who do you think? Throw out some names. Throw them loud. Not Enron. That's good. You're on the right track, though, kind of. No, when we work.
All right, go ahead.
Come on, anybody else? Okay, almost every mall had them, probably in the 80s and 90s, and you all probably went to them at one point.
Spencer's.
No, not Sears, not Spencer's. I'm not hearing it yet. Radio Shack. It was Radio Shack. Radio Shack was the company, and then I think that was probably our clue, like, yeah, this is not going to work out. So, do you remember that?
I do.
Okay.
Because they were looking, they had a code name, I don't recall it,
yeah.
but it leaked in Tampa, and they cut Tampa immediately. As soon as it hit the press in Tampa,
okay.
They cut it immediately. So when you think about these announcements, you'll see in the Tennessean or the Business Journal, there's a lot of effort, 2 or 3 year effort that go behind these, and then depending on how quickly they get ramped up, it could be another 5, 6, 7, 8 months before they really get into full production. So it's a fun process. It's a fun game. Go ahead, Corey.
Who said Radio Shack?
Someone got up there. Okay.
Matt will get you some free coupons for In-N-Out.
I'll get you some free coupons for now. Thank you, Corey.
No, so it's called site selection, but it's really site elimination.
Right. And to Matt's point, it could be a variety of reasons. We've had the family of a CEO that didn't like an area or couldn't find a house that they wanted, or it could be companies that think. We lost one project to Louisville because they felt Louisville at the time, this was years ago, was about 15 years behind Nashville, and they wanted to be a part of a growing city and be a part of that growth. So there are a variety of reasons. We get so many different questions going on.
I'd say the one commonality, it's more of a compressed timeline.
Yeah.
I think that seems to be something. I mean, you worked on the site selection, and it does seem like sometimes these companies will visit 5 cities in 5 days.
Right.
So you have far less time with them than you used to typically. But again, everybody's different. In the Hardee's headquarter project, one of the things we learned was how important it was to the spouse of the CEO. So a lot of our efforts when we learned that went to market and appeal to her. So I mean, you just never know.
I mean, everyone talks about quality of life. We get paid to say how great it's, but the reason we talk about quality of life and quality of place, it's got to be, quality of life attracts and retains talent. Job creators, as we talked about earlier, are chasing talent. So the community has to be fun, cool, hip, safe, affordable, and that really draws people in. Speaking of that, anybody, housing availability, housing costs, how does it affect what you do?
So I'll jump in. Was just having a conversation with a potential project, and they were talking about the search for housing in their current market and how difficult that has been when they put in an offer. And we're talking about a C-suite individual who we have assumptions about what their income is.
Right.
They put in an offer and they lose because somebody else had an all-cash offer on top of them. I think you all appreciate all-cash offers and the speed that comes with that, but that makes it very challenging when we're trying to bring in talent for some of these opportunities, especially that key C-suite group. If they can't find housing because of the tight market, that makes it very difficult.
Well, I also think that's why transit's so important. I know Mayor O'Connell is going to talk about transit here in a little bit, but when you think about it, if folks are forced to move a ring or two out, a transit system is going to make that access work. Corey, you looked at me like you had a question.
Yeah, well, I'll just add to that. I mean, so, and Jamari's got his hands full with affordable housing. So what we're looking at is I've seen recent figures. One for the county's going through bond rating, right? So this number is going to be really conservative. Average home value across Wilson County now is between $458,000 a year, or excuse me, $458,000 estimate on the low end to, I think the most recent Zillow estimate I saw was almost $500,000 on average. I mean, and we're not talking about Lebanon, Mount Juliet. We're talking about, Tucker's Crossroads and Noreen and a place called Cottage Home that I haven't actually found yet, but actually allegedly exists. I mean, that's a challenge for workforce. So, what we're talking about is attainable housing, right? And not just for workforce that's coming in, but also, if kids go away to school and they want to come back and live in the community. I mean, we heard Dr. Yun share, sort of the wealth gap between homeowners and renters. So I think that's, those are challenges we're seeing as a growing region. One thing that I like to talk about from the quality of life standpoint is, and Matt touched a little bit on schools, really proud of what we're seeing with Wilson County schools right now. Where they've come in the last 15, 20 years. I mean, it's one of the top school systems in the state, and it could give you lots of facts and figures. But the one that I like the most, that I think really says something about it, is in the last, I think it's in the last 8 years, but certainly within the last 10 years, our school director has been named School Director of the Year for the state of Tennessee 3 times, and that's 2 different school directors. So just really excited about the leadership there and the way that the quality continues to improve. Aside from the fact that I've already gotten a couple of texts for being here instead of at field day today, because apparently my kids, the parent tug of war, they lost and thought that I could maybe have helped
Needed
out
your muscle.
with that. So it's not on me, man. It's not on me.
Jeff, can I jump in?
Go ahead.
Yeah, and I'll add one more note on that housing affordability piece. It's the support services that make a community is also being impacted by that housing affordability, from our teachers to our firemen, police, all the way down to retail. How many of you have driven by your favorite restaurant and they're closed because of short staffing, because they can't find anyone that can live in the community to come in and work? And so those are things that are really impacting a lot of decision making right now about that place-based economic development. Is if we can't sustain the place, the investment's not going to come.
Right. Before we ask, we'll have time for a few questions. Any closing thoughts? Anything somebody needs to bring up that we haven't?
Just one more point on the school front that I think this audience may value. Unfortunately, we're in this place right now where, as you're working with your clients, especially folks that are looking to relocate, sadly, we have to be in a place where we're thinking about school safety, just with where our society is today. And I'm not going to get political with this, but Wilson County was the first county to put an SRO, school resource officer, in every public school. We have 2 in every high school now, and the sheriff's office and the county commission are actively talking about how they get 2 in every middle school to ensure children's safety. So I know that as you all are working with your clients out there, the quality of school system always comes up, but also school safety, unfortunately, is one of those things that we have to be real about right now, and that's something really proud of Mayor Hutto and Sheriff Bryan and Director Letchell and what the work that they've done for our kids to ensure that they're safe. So.
Thank you. We've got time for a question or two. Anybody have a burning question that one of these gentlemen can answer? Come on. This has always been allowed. Yes, sir.
There we go. That's a great question. So I was going to tell the story earlier, but last fall, Greenville, South Carolina visited the national region, and we had a panel in the factory with the CEO of Mitsubishi. And this was actually very similar to Nissan when they moved here. It was a culture change for Nissan. It was also a culture change for Mitsubishi. And he said 87% of the people we've hired have been local hires since they moved here. And it was a specific way to kind of change the culture of that company by hiring the talent right here in Williams County and actually throughout the region that commute in for those jobs. And so I think that is a benefit specifically, again, not just to the company, but career opportunities for friends, families, and neighbors. And more important than that, it is a place where people's kids and grandkids can come back and have not just jobs, but careers. We talk about this all the time. As fast as Nashville has grown, you don't have to go to Chicago or Atlanta or Charlotte for a career. You can do it right here in Nashville. You could start at Mars, move to Nissan, move to Mitsubishi, to Hardee's, to companies in Davidson County, and have your career right here in the region, and that was not always the case.
And also the investments those companies make in the community, when you think about how much money has Amazon given to the affordable housing in Nashville, $80 million?
Roughly that. I mean, they've got their affordable housing campaign that they're working on. They're also doing something really unique and giving back to the community. They have a partnership with the Urban League called the Red Academy. And this is a program that is targeted towards developers of color and helping them understand the ropes of finding avenues that other developers have. And so there are a lot of companies. Amazon's not the only one. Alliance Bernstein, Phillips, and others have tons of different programs where they're giving back. It doesn't make the headlines, unfortunately, that shows how they're giving back and how they're impacting the community, but they're doing it.
I think I have time for one more question over here.
Since the mayor's going to be talking about regional transportation as a key part of growth for Nashville, how do your counties connect with the transportation plan of Davidson County? In talking about potential regional rail, bus rapid transit, all those things, how can we plug that in with your current infrastructure, budgets, and the different political needs and wants of your areas?
You know, I think as they decide who's going to answer.
Yeah, I think the question was to the counties.
But I think one of our challenges, we don't have a regional tax authority, so each county is individual. So the program will start in Davidson, and then in phase 2, the outlying counties will come together. The mayors meet quarterly. All the 52 mayors come together quarterly, and Transit's always on that agenda to talk about how do we connect this network eventually going forward.
Yeah, honestly, it's the most important thing we're going to do next, without question. We started to survey our membership at our annual Outlook Williamson event in the spring. You know, how important is regional transit? But then an even more important question is, would you support it with taxpayer dollars? 60% said they would of the people we surveyed last year. So we recognize how important. I'll never forget being in Denver several years ago as we were getting ready for our visit. The head of economic development said, look, it was the moment we made this regional is the moment was passed. And I know there's state statutes that don't let us get there, but this is step one. And he said one of the things that really set us apart was we would have a map in T-shirts, and you could get from one place in one county to another, and that was the aha moment for people. So absolutely, within what we're able to do, we've had many conversations with the mayor. How can we help? We know this is Davidson first, but then it has to be the region next for this to really work and accomplish everything the mayor wants it to.
And I think that's a really important point, because there's this underlying assumption that, you know, the conservative collar counties are not going to vote for anything that looks like a new tax for this. Well, by and large, they're the ones that feel the pain the most coming into the core. So I don't subscribe to that thinking. One thing we're blessed in that Davidson and Wilson share the only operating commuter rail line in the state of Tennessee, the WeGo Star. One challenge that we have right now is because of some pretty high-profile train accidents that have happened in other communities. Lines that have commuter and freight traffic have to have certain very expensive technology controls before the governing the federal governing body will allow increased ridership. So it's become challenging for us even with the Tennessee State Fair and the Wilson County Fair merging to even be able to have the train that runs from downtown out to the fair to have trains come in for the Titans games and to have the Friday night train, things like that. But I mean, that's existing infrastructure that that we'd like to explore ways that we can build on. I've got one project right now that a transit piece to that for workforce mobility could be a huge piece of that as we work through the process.
But a big focus for the region is that regional transit piece, and I'm sure Mayor O'Connell will talk about it here in a second. Thanks, y'all. Thanks to the panel. Thanks, everybody. Oh. Thank you. Thank you. I head this way.
Applause for our
Oh,
panelists.
stop.
We really appreciate each of you joining us here today and giving that messaging to our members. Before we move on with our program today, I want to just acknowledge and express some gratitude for the invaluable insights and data that is provided by the Chamber of Commerce. This resource greatly benefits our membership as part of a commitment to continue to deliver the most current and relevant information that most affects the housing market in our region. We recently extended our collaboration with the Chamber to create a quarterly video series. The series is called the Economics Conditions Updates and is hosted by Bishoy McCall, Vice President of Research. And in the video series, you will see Bishoy delve into the latest economic and business trends affecting our greater Nashville region. To learn more about the video series and to view the latest update, please scan the QR code that's on your screen now. So now we are going to take one last break. We're going to have about 10 minutes. Please go and visit with our sponsors that are in the back of the room. Also, there's still food back there, so grab a quick bite to eat, and we're going to convene right back here in just a few moments for Mayor O'Connell.